Hello, folks. Today I'm here to talk to you about The Batman. No, not the animated series from 2004, but the highly anticipated film directed by Matt Reeves, starring everybody's favorite vampire, Edward Cullen. Oh, wait, that's not his name? Oh, well, anyway, today, folks, I am here to happily explain that this movie sucks. I cannot make this up. This movie is terrible. I am the biggest Batman fan I know. I have loved every Batman film since the 1990s, except the Tim Burton ones, but we'll get to that later. Any film that starred Batman, you know I was right there in center. He was my favorite superhero growing up. He was just the best. It didn't matter that he was dark and brooding. It didn't matter that his rogues gallery is made up of psychopaths. Batman was just awesome. And Matt Reeves manages to capture nothing about the character that I liked. Yeah, he's the world's greatest detective. He's the Cape Crusader. Fights through the trenches of Gotham City to be able to make it a safer place for the world. And, well, I mean, he got the detective part right. I mean, honestly, DC in a nutshell has had its problems ever since Marvel managed to make the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, it first started with Man of Steel. For some reason, DC decided not to jump on the universe bandwagon immediately. I understand that Christian Bale's Batman couldn't exist within a larger DC universe, but in their attempt to get the DCEU, as you know today, off the ground, they wasted time just trying to finish up Christopher Nolan's Batman films first, instead of trying to build independently the other films, and then introducing Batman once the Christopher Nolan trilogy was over. I mean, I know movie making takes a long time, but they could have at least tried to make Man of Steel by 2010 instead of 2013 is what I'm trying to say here. The problem with the Batman started with its pre-production. It was originally going to be a DCEU film starring Ben Affleck, but through personal issues that Ben Affleck was having with his wife, Jennifer Gardner at the time, and alcoholism, and just his general disenchantment with portraying Batman in the DCEU, he eventually left the project, and it developed into the film we know today. And that lies some of the problems here. First off, I'll start with the characters. First off, there's Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne / Batman. If you told me that this film was filmed in 2009 and Robert Pattinson walked off the set of Twilight to make the Batman, I would have totally believed you because he plays the character the exact same way he does Edward from Twilight. An emotionless block of wood. Now, truth be told, I'm not too familiar with Robert Pattinson's acting career. The only films I've seen him in are Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and unfortunately the first Twilight film. I've never seen the other ones, don't make me, because I'm not going to unless I really want to make reviews of them, and I know how you know that's going to turn out. Now, I know what some of you must be thinking. Didn't you watch him in Tenet, the Christopher Nolan film? Well, folks, I would say I did, except Tenet made me fall asleep. You heard me. Tenet made me fall asleep. So no, I don't have any recollection of his character in that film because I didn't watch the film when I went to go see it. And normally this can work in the actor's favor. I have no expectations for the actor. It's been so long since I've seen him in a film. But in the case of his role in this film, you might as well have made him a block of wood. He's that boring. Then there's Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. She suffers from the same problem as Robert Pattinson. I haven't seen her in a film in a decade at this point, and that being X-Men First Class. So I don't have any expectations for her. I just don't care about her character in the film. And truth be told, I really wish they went with Ana de Armas instead, but that's just me. Andy Serkis as Alfred? 1, I can't see him as anything other than Gollum, and 2, he's utterly wasted in this film. He has maybe 5 minutes of screen time, and then he's just completely forgotten about. Colin Farrell as the Penguin? Wait, that's Colin Farrell? Are you sure I'm not watching Robert De Niro? Paul Dano as the Riddler? This could have worked. I mean, I liked the idea of the Riddler being the Zodiac Killer, but in the end, the character is just utterly an idiot. The Riddler is just such a poorly written character that his motivations just boil down to, I want attention, but I'm a psychopath. I remember thinking, who is this guy and why should I care? And that totally works for the character considering that's his entire motivation. Ugh, I mean, seriously. The only actor I liked in this film is Jeffrey Wright's James Gordon. That's it. He's the only actor I went into the movie caring about, and he does his job well. Then there's the aesthetics of the film. I like the fight scenes, but they're nothing that I haven't come to expect from a Batman film. They're largely similar to the Arkham video game series. So, yeah, if you managed to screw that up, I'd be surprised. Yeah, and speaking of which, my brother actually asked me about the Batmobile chase scene. I actually forgot that scene existed in the film. That actually happened. I'm like, oh, right, that did happen. The Batmobile is terrible! I should never say that about the Batmobile. But you want to know why I am? Because, barring the fact it is a souped up muscle car, I shouldn't say that I can go out and buy a Dodge Charger, because the Batmobile is a Dodge Charger. I shouldn't say I can go out and buy the Batmobile. Just no, that just doesn't work for me. Yeah, I mean, it's unrealistic to expect that Bruce Wayne would just happen to have a tank lying around like he does in the Dark Knight trilogy, but it still makes more sense than a freaking Dodge Charger. I mean, seriously, it's the laziest Batmobile since 1966. And I didn't even see that much. Then there's the story of the film. I think the film is all over the place. First, it starts off with the Riddler being a serial killer. Then there's this whole thing with Carmine Falcone that I completely forgot the Riddler was in the film. This whole thing about Bruce's parents. I mean, what story doesn't involve Bruce's parents at this point? I mean, we already know what happens to them, so might as well just add more to the mix here. But there's just so much going on in this film that you completely forget everything else. Seriously, when the whole thing with Carmine Falcone was coming up in the film, I completely forgot that the Riddler was even the main antagonist. I mean, this movie's 3 hours long, so you might forget some things, but the fact of the matter is, this movie, I think you can tell from my review here, that this movie just boils down to being forgettable. A Batman movie. One of the most popular superheroes of all time, and one of the most bankable, has a completely forgettable movie that has no reason to exist and was only made because of the fact that the original vision for this script ended up hitting the cutting room floor due to behind-the-scenes productions issues. That's it, folks. This movie is horrifyingly boring, utterly wasted money, and completely forgettable, and is only enjoyable if you like Batman. And even if you do like Batman, there are other films to watch that are better than this. Nothing sticks out as being great in this film. I will not argue that the film is well made, but for me, it is just a forgettable film that has no reason to exist in DC's catalog when there are several other more memorable, more iconic, and just downright more enjoyable films. If I was excited about any film from DC, I really think The Batman just killed it for me. I mean, are you excited for any of the films coming up? I mean, if you are, please let me know in the comments. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow me for more.